I thought I had retirement all figured out. Work until 65, retire, that was the plan. But what if that's not actually the best option for me? Because one small detail almost changed everything. So, a little background on me. I didn't grow up around wealth. I grew up around discipline. My mom and dad worked their whole lives and saved everything they could. They lived simple, almost to a fault. Basic house, functional cars, no extras, just what worked. And one thing my dad always said stuck with me. He wanted me to get to a point where I could tell my boss, he said stick it in his ear, but I think of that song, just take this job and shove it, so I could walk away. Well, of course, that never really happened, but that mindset stuck. It was save, be responsible, be prepared. But actually, is that enough? Or is there more we should be thinking about? How about you? What's your background? What was your foundation? So, fast forward. Now, here I am, 44 years of working full time, almost 37 years of marriage, three great kids, and three grandkids. And for most of my life, the plan was very simple work until you're 65. That's just what you do, right? Is that really the plan, or just the default we all follow? But then life started shifting. My parents, still doing okay, 20 years into retirement, but slowing down. And they moved into a senior living center. They just decided to do that. So now I've transitioned into more of a caregiver role. At the same time, my in laws, same story. Worked, saved, they did everything right. And it all started making me think, is that what this looks like? Is that what retirement is? Is that what you want your retirement to look like? Well, then 2024 hit. My father in law had passed away and everything sped up. All of a sudden, we talked about moving closer to family, closer to grandkids, closer to the new church we were attending. And just like that, the houses were listed, plans were made, and months later, we moved. My 5 minute commute turned into an hour each way. That's fine. I enjoy driving. It's great. But it made me think, how much is my time worth? How much is your time worth right now? Not someday, right now. And of course, since I moved and I was getting closer and closer to 60, people were asking me, when are you going to retire? It was an automatic assumption. I hadn't even thought about it. I did this for everybody else. I moved, I enjoyed the driving, and then I returned to work after a great summer. I opened an email I had always ignored. It came every August, and it was from the retirement system. And I finally read it. I logged in, yep, for the first time. I used their calculator, and I saw what the pension number was for 65. And I thought, okay, that's better than I expected. And then I looked at the investments, and I said, oh, those are better than I expected. And then I read the fine print. And it said if you started before May 1st, 2013, if you have reached 30 years, and if you are 62, you can have full benefits, same as if you're 65. What? Wait a minute. I don't even know how long I've worked. So I just sat there. Wait a minute. What? 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 This is the moment where I ask you, have you read the fine print? Is there something you're missing? Is there something you haven't looked at yet? Well, in this case, I read it again and again because that definitely could change everything. That's not a small detail, that's a completely different decision. Because now, all of a sudden, it wasn't, do I retire at 65? It was, do I work 3 more years or not? My mind started to go wild. Is this really true? Is this really possible? Does this actually work? And I didn't tell anyone, not even my wife. Well, at Christmas, I told her, and she surprised me. She was all in, and that did not make this any easier. So I went looking for answers. Books, podcasts, hours of learning. I started running numbers, budgets, income, expenses, taxes, healthcare. What if this happens? What if the market crashes? What if the market goes great? What if we have health concerns? You name it. I thought about it. And that's when I really started to understand what this might look like. I ran scenario after scenario of expenses versus cash flow. One of the first things, though, that my wife made very clear is that don't put pressure on me, darling, just because my business is growing. Okay. I ran everything without her income included. What I found was healthcare alone could be around $2,500 per month. Then I added the utilities, the food, the basic living expenses, and then I added my pension income and used the 4% rule for savings. We basically just break even. Okay. My question for you and for me at that moment is, would you retire if you could just break even? So next I had to decide about Social Security. And my plan was always to wait until I could get full retirement. That was at 67. The difference between 62 and 67 is about $1,000 a month, and that's for life. So, would you wait for more later, or would you take less now? It works on paper, but comes with trade-offs. There's going to be limited travel, at least early on. What would you give up to get back your time? That's what went through my head. Which, don't tell my wife, that's what her income can be used for. Shh. So next I asked myself, what am I actually going to do? Because retirement isn't money. It's 168 hours a week. I mean, what would you do if you had 168 hours every week that you controlled? No job, no structure. And I didn't have an answer. So I had started to explore. I'm still exploring garage projects, woodworking, gardening, a variety of hiking and exercise, and trying to figure out what's this next season of retirement going to be like. One of the things we know is my wife's business is growing, and there are ways that I can support her, and I have a lot to learn. And life keeps happening. My parents moved into a senior center while I was on vacation. My daughter has fallen in love with someone here where we moved, and she's going to get married. And so she moved here, back in with us. And then my son, who was her roommate, realized he can't afford to be by himself. And so he moved here and moved back in with us and has decided to go back to college, which is fantastic. But that means our expenses have changed, our responsibilities have changed. And now the question isn't just, can I retire? Now it's, what's best for everybody? I mean, this isn't just my story here. This is a family. Like I said before, these decisions ripple across family and friends. They impact them. I'm figuring it out right now, day by day. I'm testing the ideas. I'm running scenarios. I'm learning about the trade-offs because 62 is a viable option. The question is it the right one? So, over the next few months, I'm going to be sharing everything. The process, the numbers, the questions, the doubts, the decisions. And I know I'm not alone. And I do not have it all figured out. But I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to reach an answer. I'm going to make a decision. Where are you in your retirement journey right now? Because if you're on this journey too, in any way, I invite you to come along with me.